first time I came out to someone in person, I was halfway through a bottle of Jack and sitting in the backyard of my best friend's house, legs stretched out over a cold patio chair, staring at the stars. I didn't plan it. It just came out. We were alone, just me and Caleb. Everyone else had either passed out inside or Ubered home after the party. He and I were still sipping from the bottle we'd hidden under the table like it was some kind of secret. Our thing. Like always. I don't even know what led to it. We were talking about dating. Bad Tinder stories, people ghosting, all that crap. I think I said something like, well, it's not like I'm fighting off hordes of guys either. He laughed and said, since when do you care what guys think? And then I just said it. Since forever. I'm gay. I expected him to laugh. Or maybe spit out his drink. Or do that thing where straight guys make everything into a joke, just to make the silence less awkward. But Caleb didn't do any of that. He just nodded slowly, like I'd told him I got a haircut or bought a new pair of shoes. Then he said, "You ever think about me?" That's when I laughed. I mean, what the hell else was I supposed to do? But when I looked over at him, he wasn't laughing. He wasn't smirking, teasing, or drunk grinning like usual. He just looked at me, really looked at me, with this strange kind of stillness I'd never seen in him before, like he was waiting, like he meant it. The air suddenly felt thicker, like the temperature had spiked 10 degrees. The sound of crickets, the hum of the neighbor's pool filter, even the distant bass of someone's car stereo, it all faded into the background. What? I said, my voice half a laugh, half a cough. He didn't repeat himself. Just took another swig of whiskey, looked away, then added quietly, I mean, if you did, I wouldn't blame you. That made me sit up. What are you talking about? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, staring out at the yard like it held all the answers. Just, you know, we've known each other forever. You've seen me at my worst. And I don't know, man. I guess I've always wondered if you ever thought about it. There was a beat. A full, heavy, awkward beat. Then he turned to me, eyes meeting mine again. Thought about me. And this time, there was no mistaking it. He was serious. Dead serious. I blinked, caught somewhere between shock and disbelief. My first instinct was to laugh it off again, nervous to break the silence, to fill the sudden void. But this wasn't some stupid joke or a random drunk dare. Caleb was really asking me if I'd ever thought about him. Like, in that way. Dude, I said, forcing a chuckle. You're killing me. You really want to know? He shrugged, looking a little sheepish. Yeah, I mean, if the answer's no, I'm cool. Just figured I'd ask. I looked away, suddenly unsure what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, of course I have, but the other part was scared. Because if I admitted that, it might change everything. It might break the one thing I thought was unbreakable, our friendship. The truth was, I'd thought about Caleb more times than I wanted to admit. The stupid moments where I caught myself staring a little too long. The late night talks where his laugh echoed in my head long after he was gone. The way his hand accidentally brushed mine and my heart did a dumb little flip. But it was always just a thought. Look, I finally said, I don't want to mess this up. You're my best friend. I don't want to lose that. Caleb nodded, eyes softening. Me neither. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the weight of everything hanging between us. The night was cooler now, a soft breeze brushing over the backyard. The fire pit had burned down to glowing embers. Then Caleb reached out. Not with a joke, not with a tease. He took my hand. It was electric. His hand was warm, steady, but my whole body went numb. I wanted to pull away, to scream at myself for letting it get this far. But I didn't. I couldn't. Caleb squeezed gently, like he was asking permission without words. Why now? I whispered. Why tell me this? He looked at me, eyes honest and maybe a little scared, because I can't stop thinking about it. About you. And I didn't want to keep pretending I wasn't. I swallowed hard, heart hammering so loud I was sure he could hear it too. We'd been close for years, I said. I never thought you'd... Me neither, he interrupted. But maybe I've been lying to myself. Or maybe I just didn't want to know. The moment stretched between us, fragile and raw. It felt like the world had shrunk to just those few feet of backyard, and the firelight dancing across his face. I don't know what happens next, Caleb admitted, voice low, but I want to find out. With you. I looked down at our joined hands, the reality sinking in. This wasn't some late-night fantasy or a joke played out by two drunk friends. It was real and terrifying, but also the most alive I'd felt in a long time. Okay, I said finally, a small smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Okay, he echoed, relief flooding his features. We stayed there for a long time after that, hands intertwined, talking about everything and nothing, about what scared us, what we hoped for, what we didn't know yet. And in that quiet backyard, under the stars, something changed. The days that followed were surreal. It was like we'd crossed some invisible line, and everything between us shifted. We still joked like before, teased each other like usual, but there was this new undercurrent, an electric tension beneath every glance, every touch. Caleb started texting me more. Little things, memes, song lyrics, questions about my day, stuff that felt casual but meant so much more. One evening, we ended up at my apartment, sprawled out on the couch with a movie playing neither of us really watched. His hand found mine again, fingers lacing together naturally like it was the most normal thing in the world. I looked over at him, heart pounding. So, what are we? He smiled, that same shy, nervous smile from the backyard days ago. I don't know yet, but I want to figure it out with you. It was the first time I let myself really believe it. That maybe, just maybe, this wasn't some crazy mistake. That maybe Caleb felt it too. The pull, the connection, the possibility. That night, when he left, he kissed me. Just a quick, soft kiss on the cheek, but it hit me like a lightning bolt. I was left breathless, sitting there, trying to catch my own heartbeat. After that, nothing was the same. We were careful at first. Nobody needed to know just yet. But the way he looked at me, the way his hand brushed my arm when we thought no one was watching, said everything. One afternoon, we found ourselves sitting on the roof of his apartment building, watching the city lights flicker on. He turned to me, voice barely above a whisper. You ever think about us? I smiled, fingers tracing the back of his hand. Every day. Caleb grinned, leaning his head on my shoulder. And for the first time in forever, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Weeks went by, and the quiet little bubble Caleb and I had slipped into started to stretch beyond the boundaries of our friendship. We kept it under wraps, partly because I wasn't ready for anyone else to know, partly because I was scared. What if it changed everything with the people around us? What if it changed him? But hiding it grew harder every day. One night, we were at a late-night diner, a greasy spoon that stayed open 24/7. We sat in a corner booth, the red leather cracked and sticky, plates half-eaten and coffee cups stained. He reached across the table, his hand finding mine under the flickering neon sign. You ever think about telling anyone? Caleb asked softly. I shook my head. Not yet. It's complicated. He nodded, squeezing my hand. Yeah, I get that. But then, out of nowhere, his voice dropped a little lower, eyes locking with mine. But maybe it's time. Maybe we don't have to be scared. My heart jumped. The idea terrified me, but I also felt this strange thrill. You really mean that? Yeah. I'm done pretending, man. I want to be with you, out loud. That night, we left the diner hand in hand, walking the empty streets like we owned them. Back at my place, everything shifted again. Caleb pressed me against the doorframe, his breath warm on my skin. Are you sure? He asked, fingers trailing down my arm. I nodded, even though my heart was racing like crazy. Yeah, I'm sure. And then he kissed me. This time, not a quick brush, but a slow, deep kiss that sent electricity shooting through my whole body. I kissed him back like I'd been waiting for it forever. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, he smiled. This is just the start, you know. I grinned, feeling something new blossoming inside me. I know. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of discovery. We kept our relationship low-key, but every stolen moment felt electric, like we were living on the edge of something thrilling and terrifying all at once. There was something freeing about finally being able to hold Caleb's hand in public, even if it was just for a second before pulling away nervously. That brush of skin was like a spark that kept reigniting. But it wasn't all easy. The fear of being found out, of judgment, was always there, lurking in the background. Sometimes it made me want to retreat back into the safety of just friends. One afternoon, I caught Caleb staring at me in a way that made my stomach twist. "Hey," I said softly, reaching for his hand. He hesitated, then squeezed it. "I'm scared," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Me too," I said honestly. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of everything settling around us. Then Caleb looked at me with those steady eyes and said something that changed everything. "If we're going to do this, we have to be honest, with ourselves, with each other." I nodded, heart pounding. "I want to try, really try." That night, we talked for hours. About fears, hopes, what we wanted, and what we didn't. And somewhere in that conversation, we found something stronger than fear. Trust. Love. Something real. It wasn't a perfect journey. There were moments of doubt, missteps, and the kind of awkwardness that only comes from learning how to love someone new. But through it all, Caleb and I kept choosing each other. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, we sat on my fire escape, legs dangling over the edge. The world below buzzed with life, but up there, it was just us. Caleb turned to me, his face soft in the fading light. "I'm glad you told me you're gay," he said quietly. I smiled, heart full. "Me too, because now I know you feel the same way." He reached over, fingers brushing my cheek gently. I've never been more sure of anything. I leaned into his touch, feeling warmth spread through me. "You ready to tell the world?" He nodded, eyes bright. "Together." And in that moment, under the twilight sky, everything felt possible. Because sometimes the hardest thing to say is the beginning of something beautiful. I never planned to come out that night. It wasn't supposed to be some big reveal or a moment I'd replay over and over in my head. It just happened. It was one of those late summer nights when the city felt like it was holding its breath. Humid, sticky, with a buzzing energy that you could almost taste. The air smelled faintly of hot asphalt and jasmine, and a warm breeze stirred the leaves on the old oak tree in the backyard where we were sitting. The party was winding down, a scattered handful of people still clinging to the fading excitement, hovering near the fire pit or nursing their drinks on the porch steps. Music played softly in the background, a playlist someone had thrown together that was equal parts nostalgic and chill. Me and Caleb had slipped away from the crowd, ending up alone on the back porch. He was leaning against the railing, one foot propped up, a half-empty bottle of whiskey balanced between his hands. I was on the old picnic bench, legs stretched out, feeling the rough wood underneath me and the buzz of the night seeping into my bones. We were talking about everything and nothing, school, work, dumb Tinder stories, how none of us really knew what the hell we were doing with our lives. I was trying to seem casual, joking about how my love life was a disaster, and Caleb was listening, that familiar half-smile playing on his lips. Then, somewhere between a story about a bad date and the way he laughed at a ridiculous meme I sent, I said it. "I'm gay," I blurted out. No build-up, no warning, just those 3 words hanging in the warm night air. The world felt like it paused for a second. Even the cicadas seemed to hush. Caleb didn't laugh. He didn't flinch or choke on his whiskey. He just looked at me, really looked. And then he asked the question, "You ever think about me?" I laughed. It was a nervous, disbelieving laugh. I thought it was a joke. But when I glanced over, his eyes were serious. Intense. Vulnerable in a way I wasn't prepared for. I realized then that this wasn't a game. Not some drunken tease. It was real. I sat there for a moment, heart pounding, like it wanted to jump out of my chest. The breeze felt hotter now, suffocating in its sudden weight. I wanted to say something clever, to brush it off with a joke, but the words caught in my throat. "Me? You?" I finally said, forcing a grin, but my voice was shaky. Caleb nodded, eyes still locked on mine. "Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I've wondered." My mind raced, memories flashing. Those times we stayed up late talking about everything. The times his hand lingered a little longer when we bumped into each other. The times I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. I had shoved those feelings down, buried them beneath layers of just friends. And it's not real, but hearing him say it out loud made me realize it was. "I've thought about it," I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Caleb's smile was soft, almost shy. "Me too." We sat there, hands accidentally brushing, neither of us moving away. That night, everything changed. The silence between us stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was full, like the space was waiting for something to fill it, and maybe that something was us finally admitting what we'd both been too scared to say. I glanced down at my hands resting on my knees, fingers twitching nervously. Caleb's eyes didn't leave mine, steady and searching. "Why didn't you say anything before?" I asked, voice rough from the sudden weight of it all. He let out a breath, running a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times but never noticed meant something. "I was scared," he admitted. "Scared of ruining what we have, scared of losing you." His words hit me harder than I expected, because I felt the same way. The idea of losing Caleb, losing us, was terrifying. I took a deep breath, then finally met his gaze head-on. "Me too." The tension between us shifted, becoming electric. Without thinking, I reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair behind his ear. His skin was warm under my fingers, and his eyes fluttered closed for a moment. "Does this change things?" I asked quietly. Caleb opened his eyes and smiled, a slow, genuine smile that made my chest ache. "I don't know," he said, "but I want to find out." I nodded, heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Me too." We stayed there for what felt like hours, talking about everything and nothing. Our fears, our hopes, the what-ifs, and maybe some days. And then, under the canopy of stars, Caleb leaned in. Our lips met softly at first, hesitant, like a question. But then everything else fell away. Time, fear, doubt, and all that mattered was the warmth of him against me. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was real, messy, and absolutely terrifying. But also, the most alive I'd ever felt. After that night, everything felt different, even though on the surface, nothing had changed. Caleb and I kept up the same routines. Classes, work, late-night talks. But there was a new layer to our friendship now. A secret shared in glances and touches that lasted a heartbeat too long. I found myself replaying that kiss over and over in my mind. The softness, the way his skin felt against mine, the steady beat of his heart under my fingertips. I never imagined that something so simple could shake me to my core. But it wasn't just the kiss. It was what it represented. We were stepping into unknown territory, and it was scary. The days that followed were a delicate dance of figuring out what this meant. Caleb was cautious, like he was testing the waters, feeling out how far we could go without breaking the fragile balance between us. Sometimes I caught him staring at me when he thought I wasn't looking. Other times, he'd brush his hand against mine accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, and then quickly pull away, cheeks flushed. One afternoon, we were sitting in a quiet corner of the campus coffee shop, textbooks and notebooks scattered around us, pretending to study. But I wasn't paying attention to the material. I was watching Caleb, the way his fingers tapped rhythmically on his mug, the way his brow furrowed in concentration. He looked up, catching me staring. "Caught me," he said, smirking. I laughed nervously, shoving my notes aside. Sorry, you're distracting. He raised an eyebrow, leaning closer. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I swallowed, heart racing. Definitely good. We sat there for a moment, the hum of the cafe around us fading into the background. Then Caleb reached across the table, his hand covering mine. Jake, he said softly, using my real name for the first time like it was a secret between us. Yeah? I don't want to hide anymore. I'm tired of pretending. I squeezed his hand, the warmth grounding me. Me too. That night, back at my apartment, Caleb stayed late. We talked for hours about the future, about what we wanted, and what scared us. The walls seemed to close in, but with him there, it felt safe. As he left, he pulled me into a tight hug, and I whispered, "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out." He smiled, eyes shining. Together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind, a blend of thrilling firsts and terrifying uncertainties. Caleb and I began navigating what it meant to be more than friends, stealing moments between classes, sending texts that lingered late into the night, and quietly building a world that belonged just to us. But nothing worth having ever comes without its challenges. One evening, after a long day, we found ourselves sitting on the rooftop of his apartment building, the city lights stretching out like stars beneath us. The cool night air was a sharp contrast to the heat pulsing through my veins. Caleb looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Jake," he said, voice low. "There's something I need to tell you." My heart skipped. "What is it?" He hesitated, then swallowed. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Scared of what people will say, scared of losing you, scared of messing this up." I reached out, taking his hand in mine. "Me too," I confessed, "but I don't want to hide anymore. Not from you, not from anyone." He smiled, relief flooding his face. "Then let's be honest. Let's be brave." And just as I was about to lean in, he pulled back slightly, eyes gleaming with something dangerous. "There's one thing I've been wanting to do since the night you told me you were gay," he whispered. My breath caught. Before I could ask, he grinned mischievously, "But I'm not sure you're ready for it yet. And that's where I'll leave it. For now."